Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of VCTV with your host, Kyle Ellicott. Guess what? We're here to talk about our favorite subject, blockchain. But more importantly, we're going to dive into some of the details happening around the blockchain industry, including emerging or transformative markets as well. We also are going to break down some of the big news and headlines from this week, including Volkswagen and their electric vehicles, along with energy grid pilot that's going on. We've got New Zealand and their recent digital currency or stablecoin project that they just released as well. We've got stuff around supply chains. We've got central bank digital currencies. We got everything. We're going to break it down here for you. And I'm joined by some outstanding friends and family from around the world, a part of the VCTV family network here of investors. And we're going to be doing that in just a moment. But before we do, big thank you for you tuning in. If it's your first time, make sure you click subscribe, share the episode, and check out the archive on LATOKEN.com to hear from all today's speakers and all speakers of the VCTV family from around the world. And if you would like to be on a show like today's, either as an investor or entrepreneur, reach out and we'll find that right spot for you. Also, a big thank you to the LATOKEN team and to Maria for making VCTV possible every single day. With that, I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. Let's go ahead and talk about blockchain today and introduce our guest. First and foremost, Giampaolo, welcome back to the show. A little intro, a little background.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. This is Giampaolo Parigi. I'm a venture capitalist, private equity investor, and the chairman of a single family office. I've been on emerging markets for about 30 years, so it's a good occasion today to share some of what I've seen on this, fantastic journey. And again, welcome everyone. Back to you, Kyle.
Thank you very much, Giampaolo, and welcome back. And by the way, audience, we have a new feature. The comments box is open. So at any time, if you have any questions for us as we're talking about blockchain and emerging markets today or transformative markets, reach out. I'll do my best to ask them in real time. If not, we're all available online. Next up, Tolga, welcome back. A little intro, a little background for everybody.
Thank you, Kyle, for having me once again. I started as a designer, developer. I worked for companies like Spin Master, Electronic Arts, and eventually I started my own company called Thunderbolt, and I worked with over 40 different startups and raised $8.5 million for multiple different ventures. Eventually, I sold my company to an investment company based in Canada. It was called New Wave Holdings, and I was the CEO of that investment company until that venture became publicly traded at the Canadian Stock Exchange in 2019. I took some time off, and the pandemic happened. And during the pandemic, I met our CEO, and I joined the team Loop. Right now, I'm the vice president of Loop, and we are pretty much the fastest growing electric vehicle charging network in California, and one of the fastest growing electric vehicle charging networks in North America. And I will tell you more about it during the conversation. Thank you.
Wonderful. Welcome back. And shameless promotion, one of the best as well. So there you go. A little shout out for Loop EV. Harsh, welcome back as well. A little intro, a little background.
Hey Kyle, glad to be back and to have Gary, Giampaolo, and Tolga as well, right? So my name is Harsh Shetia. I'm a founder with Startup Hackers Facebook group. Basically focus on early stage startup founders, helping them start out, taking the first step from 0 to 1, 1 to 10, etc. Additionally, I'm also a venture partner with our ventures, where we help startups raise funds and grow their business in terms of strategic partnerships and growth hacking, right? So any early stage startup companies need any help, feel free to reach out. We know we can figure something out and help you out. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Harsh. Last but not least, Gary Fowler. Welcome back.
Yeah, great.
A little intro, a little background.
Great to see all my friends. My name's Gary Fowler. I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. I've done 17 companies. I've been involved in 2 unicorns. Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion. I was on the original management team. And also Eva.ai, an AI HR tech company that I co-founded with Dr. David Yang. A billionaire out of originally from Russia, living in Silicon Valley. I am the president, CEO, and co-founder of GSD Get Shit Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio, curating companies from around the world, bringing them to Silicon Valley, using it as an port so that we can get higher valuations, partnerships, sales, etc., to be able to be part of this global ecosystem. So it's great to be here and great to see some friends and smiling faces today.
Absolutely. And Gary, just a quick shout out. I'm gonna press on you for just a minute. For the founders that are listening, notice if you've heard Gary on previous shows, when he talks about GSDV and Get Shit Done Venture Studios, he has a very similar pitch time over time, but it's continued to evolve. And today he added quantum into that with artificial intelligence. So founders, why I'm pointing this out is that over time, your pitch should be evolving, and you should continue to be paying attention to the feedback you're getting and adding things in there as well. So Gary, you're my muse for the moment. Thank you very much for that example as well. But we are going to talk about quantum here in just a moment. However, today's topic is again about blockchain in emerging or transformative markets. There is a lot of activity happening around the blockchain landscape. We talked, Maria and I, earlier today around what just happened today, including Wyrix and their partnership with MasterCard in the UK and Europe, allowing a new multi-current debit card to be able to purchase items with cryptocurrency and local currencies. We've got Techie Mint that just launched New Zealand's first regulated stablecoin, the New Zealand dollar stablecoin. As a matter of fact, these are just a few of the major headlines that have come out around transformative markets around the world. Would love to hear from each of you what you're seeing in terms of activity as we have digital currencies reaching all-time highs. DeFi, total locked value, TLV, is also reaching and nearing its all-time high with over $42 billion tucked away in these networks and protocols. So what are you all seeing happening? And then I have a few deep dive questions for each of you. Giampaolo, I'm going to start with you.
I mean, there are fantastic drivers really on the horizon. One is, the digital national central bank currencies. Those are, are probably a staple, and over a long term, I venture to say that they're going to probably substitute the fiat currency. So, I mean, it's a huge sector on its own. Then, of course, we have blockchain, which has its raison d'etre, and it has proven it phenomenally. And I'm also quite keen on keeping and taking a look at what the Ethereum developments will produce, because, with the smart contracts, you can, let's say, evolve the architectures of blockchain on a multidimensional level. And as I say, blockchain itself, it has shown that it's a replicable and duplicable architecture also outside of the, not so limited space of the cryptocurrencies proper. So, I see that those are phenomenal drivers. When you put it into the context of emerging markets, I mean, you can also think that security will remain the main concern, the primary concerns of investors and stakeholders alike. Because, here and there we see, I don't want to get into any particular names, but those are in the public domain. Even in very advanced economies, we have seen some, flawed companies that had issues that have resulted into scandals. And I think that, the alignment of even the new templates with, I would say, baseline concerns of every investor probably is the biggest challenge. And I think the savvy investors may take a look at companies that are operating in that space. And Gary Fowler, can tell us something way more than I can on artificial intelligence and how machine learning and artificial intelligence can come to play in that space and to, reinforce the security items, for many issues that we encounter today. So I think overall we have 3-4 large big drivers, and where we will see sustained growth and a lot of activity on a lot of M&A consolidation, and of course, I would say, and I finish here, the regulators are slowly taking heed of the fact that certain adaptations are necessary in the fundraising market, so that operations and deals can still remain compliant, but at the same time certain bureaucratic components can be let's say streamlined and eased up a little bit, so that the market can open up really to take full advantage of the existing and oncoming technology. But again, back to you.
Yeah, no, you bring up great points. I mean, you brought up the Ethereum community as well, and that entire developer ecosystem and what's happening there. I mean, we just had the first company announce, Meitu out of China, announce that they were adding Ethereum to their balance sheet. This was the first time a company has mentioned that into their treasury. And we also have seen a flourishing ecosystem there. We have Hedera Hashgraph, Flows blockchain, which is built by Dapper Labs and NBA Top Shot, Solana, and many other layer ones, including Binance Chain, which has come out of left field that more developers are starting to get on, including Polkadot and what they're building as well. So, Giampaolo, you're setting up a perfect conversation for us here. And Gary, I'm going to come to you next, as Giampaolo called you out. I mean, in terms of what you are seeing around blockchain as a whole, but more importantly, focused around these transformative markets around the world and how it might be applied.
Yeah, so I mean, this is like keep it simple, stupid time, as we say, Kyle. And what kind of issues and challenges? And we're dealing in Africa today. We're dealing in Kenya, Rwanda, South Africa, and Nigeria. So corruption is one of the biggest issues facing these countries, and the absence of this democratization and these corrupt officials has really, put a thwart on it. And it's not just there, it's other parts of the world too, including South America, parts of South America. So, and I've seen it living in Eastern Europe, I had seen those kind of challenges there. So, and let's paint the picture. Why are they looking at blockchain? Well, they're looking at blockchain in the system in order for the remittances. I mean, time and time again, and I've done it myself, sent money via Western Union or PayPal or MoneyGram, you name it. And then they're on and they're off and they're off, out. So they're charging huge transaction fees. And yet you have this incredible demand, over 600 billion increase in remittance payments back. So what we need to do is we need to find more flexible and more efficient systems in order to be able to do it. So look at things like BitPesa, right? And you mentioned it before when we were on a panel. I believe it was you, in crypto-based service in Kenya, and look how fast that's grown. So, the other thing is, what do we have? We've got people that have, their mobile devices, but they're underserved and underbanked. So how do we include them into part of this system as we talk about the democratization of opportunity? So this is another challenge that we have, and they say that there are over 2 billion people worldwide that don't even have a bank account. And a huge percentage of them come from areas in Africa, including places like Pakistan. So it's an interesting and incredible opportunity. So you look like BitSpark in Hong Kong, OKCoin, OKLink in India. There's an incredible upside opportunity for it, because as we go through this digital transformation, as we've, I hate to say stumbled through it, because it was 1 year ago almost today, Kyle, that I met you for the first time, about today actually. So think about how things have changed. And as we democratize these opportunities, the underserved are going to want to be served. And there's a huge opportunity. There are over 1 billion people on the African continent.
That is very true. And we talked a little bit about what was happening in Africa yesterday here on BCTV as well. But I do want to pass it over to Harsh. Harsh, we've spoken about what's happening in India from an emerging market standpoint around blockchain and crypto or digital currencies, right? There's welcoming, and then there's a huge pushback. The Bank of India recently begun working with JP Morgan on one of their large blockchain networks called Link, a new one that they're using to work with banks that replaced or stepped in the place of Quorum as they had that acquired by Consensus. And so there are efforts on the blockchain side of things, but from a digital currency side, there's an entire push away from it, right? I think we're about a month or so into the 3 to 6 months investors had to roll out of investments within the country and the region. What are you seeing just in general around India or other transformative markets? Again, I know you invest, and the audience should as well, that you invest in many areas around the world. How are you seeing blockchain applied, or maybe again being pushed back a little bit on in these markets?
Got it. So primarily you are bang on right. So in India, cryptocurrencies, the government is not kind of taking it too friendly because majority of the population is still relatively uneducated, right? So this becomes something completely different, and there's a potential of rampant misuse happening, and the government kind of needs to ensure that the majority uneducated people don't get fleeced out of their money, right? So that's why there's a lot of skepticism around it, and that's why cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, etc., haven't been able to kind of go to the next level, but they are definitely extremely supportive towards blockchain, right? So in blockchain side, you look at it in terms of kind of improvement and the focus they are doing it primarily in the agriculture space, right? Currently, the agriculture space was completely decentralized and it was extremely uncoordinated. There was no track of information. It was extremely difficult. However, they're trying to get it into the agriculture space. There's this one startup I came across. They are trying to use blockchain into the B2B supply space, right? Basically, they would have like a B2B aggregator website. People can buy products from there, and they use smart contracts based on ERC20 token, and they use that to facilitate the entire B2B marketplace. So those are some of the areas where we are seeing a lot of improvements in terms of facilitating B2B communication and having a smart contract in place. Otherwise, what would happen is without that legal contract in place, a lot of times even the suppliers would kind of get fleeced out of their money and they would not even get product out of hand and they would not have proof. Now you can use the smart contract to provide proof, and that's kind of an evidence, right? That is extremely crucial in economies like India if you're kind of working with a neo vendor who you don't have past relationships with. That's extremely crucial. Additionally, one of the startups which I came across, they are primarily focused on the jewelry industry, right? So I think we have spoken about this in one of the earlier panels as well. In the jewelry industry, it's completely unorganized the way the entire economy is structured, right? From sourcing it in Africa to processing it in Belgium to the end finished products, right? They're trying to use blockchain over there to kind of, the middlemen which are there and the vendors which are there, they have their own digital account uh, based on the blockchain nodes, and through that kind of facilitate how the transactions take place. It's obviously in a very early stages because the kind of partners they are there, they are completely averse to technology and they are not very comfortable with that, right? So they are starting it from scratch. But down the line, if you look at it, the growth over there is going to be tremendous because you look at the value and the amount of money that takes place in the diamond industry. It's absolutely phenomenal. So that is one other area. And another startup from Africa had kind of reached out to me recently. I think even Gary is working with them, right? They are trying to kind of work into a financial crypto solution where they can get into a micro lending kind of service, making loans more easily available to the people at large. Additionally, they have a lot of other options where each and every product or service that you want, they can get it listed. That'll be listed on the platform, and basically with the tokens that you buy initially, most of those they are not like security tokens, they are utility tokens. But once you have those utility tokens, you can use that to transact on the platform. And especially in countries like Africa where currency is extremely unstable and completely decentralized, right? Crypto could actually end up bringing more stability. So in other countries where crypto tends to be considered volatile, it's actually the inverse which is true in countries like countries in Africa, where the currency inherently is extremely unstable. Just look at what happened to Zimbabwe a couple years back, right? So for them, crypto could actually be a huge savior for them, where it could actually add some stability to how their current economy is structured. So it's really, it's really amazing how globally the same technology has different implications and what it can really, the outcomes it can lead to.
Thank you very much, Harsha. Tolga, I want to come to you next. Same question in terms of what you're generally seeing in the market. We also had Volkswagen last week announce a major partnership with a company to start building a pilot around electric vehicles and giving back to the general global, is what they said, electric grid. So we'd love to hear your thoughts as to what you're seeing. And then just in terms of the EV market. And Giampaolo, I've got some fun CBDC, central bank digital currency stuff for you here in just a moment. So Tolga, I'll let you kick us off with your thoughts first.
Sure. I mean, some people still think that Bitcoin, it's a new thing. Bitcoin has been actually around for 12 years, and blockchain too. So it's just, and these are actually almost like, they are not in infancy stages anymore. They're very mature technology, arms of the digitalization in the current industry. So these are like, there's no question, blockchain or cryptocurrencies, if they're gonna exist in the future or not. There's no question about this. Like these are totally replacing what we are doing in daily lives. They're not going to be any cash anymore. You're not going to use any cash. And blockchain, all of our data, and from the most minimal things to large enterprises, or even governmental data, applications. Everything is going to be on blockchain, and it's already like, this transformation is already happening. So I don't need to, I guess, like, emphasize this. But some people still, just because they're buying Bitcoin and selling Bitcoin, it's just, they think that this is just a fun thing. It's not. It's just going to grow even further. The adoption is still, even though the technology is a maturing technology, the adoption is still in infancy stages. So these are as soon as global money movement gets more influenced by cryptocurrencies, as actually it's happening this year. I think the cultural shift is going to happen, and this cultural shift is going to help both companies and governmental organizations, and also individuals too, to really take the full benefit of these technologies around blockchain. So what are those technologies? From electric vehicles to EV charging to manufacturing to the digitalization of many under digitalized industries. Everything is going to be on blockchain. So it's already happening. So I think there's a huge value in anything that has any service or product that have some sort of cryptocurrency, payment structure, or if there's any involvement with the cryptocurrencies in their in their business model. I think that it has huge value for the future. Obviously, there needs to be some meaning. You can't just add a token out of nowhere, like without a purpose. But if your token, if your cryptocurrency, or if your business model includes cryptocurrencies, it's going to have value in the future. So I definitely encourage all startup entrepreneurs, CEOs, to think about how can they evolve their current business model to take the benefits of cryptocurrencies in the future. Because if you're not thinking right now about this, in 5 to 10 years, you're gonna be behind. So it's very important. Coming to your point, Volkswagen. I mean, look, Volkswagen and Toyota, these are the biggest car manufacturers in the world. They sell millions of cars, and them getting into electric vehicles is the end of the game. This is just literally the end of the game. For gasoline based cars, because in after 2024 to 2025, these car manufacturers, Toyota, Volkswagen, BMW, Mercedes, these brands, Fiat is already in the EVs, but these cars get into electric vehicles. This whole digitalization of things are gonna be really felt. Right now, there's only Tesla, and Tesla is kind of like already perceived as like a rich man's car. But this is gonna be quick. In 2-3 years, we are going to see a bunch of different kind of EVs in the streets, including the cheap cars, cheap EVs, and that's going to help immensely the transformation of the digitalization of everything. And that because all these cars, the electric vehicles, they are like, mobile large smartphones, basically. I mean, they are, and in the future, Tesla is thinking about, including cryptocurrency payments into their structure. That's a huge game changer. Tesla doing this means that they're leading this way, and all other car manufacturers are going to do this. And what's going to happen, as soon as they integrate all these, foundation into their structures of car payments, EV charging payments, as soon as this happens, via cryptocurrencies and blockchain, that's also the end of the game. Like, because right now, the majority of, the cash transactions, you go to Arco or something, or a gas station, you have to pay cash. That's can you imagine like that inflow completely moves into cryptocurrencies? It's massive, and now
And
these
it
are
could be a revenue. Yeah, it could be a revenue driver too, right? It could be a new income opportunity for those who own those vehicles as well, right? Just being able to not only give back but also receive for whether they're driving.
Yeah, I mean, our business model, Loop, which actually, really distinguishes us from all other EV charging companies, we really empower the site owners. If you have a commercial building, if you own a restaurant, if you own an apartment building complex, with no upfront costs, we install EV chargers into your building. And as soon as the installation is done, and the first car comes and starts charging their car, you start making money. It's like, you become a gas station. So that it's like a traditional gas station. I mean, this is a major revolution, in terms of the democratization of the energy distribution, because this was a monopoly. Aramco, Shell, BP, these companies, they own the whole game. This is changing now.
Well, and that goes back to a point Giampaolo made too around regulation. And on a global scale, regulation is going to play a role in some way, shape, or form. And when we look at blockchains and we have enterprise that starts to move in, we have governments coming in. We just had some breaking news moments ago that Shinhai Bank out of South Korea has actually just built a pilot blockchain platform for the upcoming issuance of a South Korean central bank digital currency. We're seeing, again, I mean, this is just happening, minute by minute here, and regulation is going to play in some way, shape, or form. Giampaolo, I want to come back to you around, anything that you want to add in terms of comments, but also around this, central bank digital currencies and the regulation side. I mean, regulation is going to step in. What does that mean for the impact of blockchain in the transformative markets?
Well, it is often said that, on small hinges, big doors revolve, and we have huge hinges today because we have decentralized finance, we got blockchain, we got national digital currencies from the central bank. Those are gigantic freeways on which the manufacturing, the service, and the agricultural sectors will have to confront very quickly. If you think, manufacturing, take that for example, they are just beginning to adapt to the so-called Industry 4.0, and all of a sudden, they get thrown through the roof by the adoption of new methodologies that either governments or large corporates are bringing into the table. And, I want to take it from where Tolga left it. We now see Bitcoin. If Bitcoin were to be a financial institution today, would be the largest financial institution in the world, having passed the $1 trillion equivalent of market capitalization. And this has happened recently as a result of, Tesla and other corporates and large global banks putting up portion of their liquidity into that currency. But if you begin, what could happen, with smart contracts and with the other cryptocurrencies, the derivatives level that we can have, and these games are infinite. And so it is a constant reorientation of the game, which is very, exhilarating if you watch it, on a show like this. But if you are a business person, of course, you are confronted with numerous vagaries and a number of variables that sometimes defy comprehension. And even as an investor, you are confronted with tough decisions that have to be taken sometimes in milliseconds if you are on a listed exchange, and anyway in a few hours versus a few months in the past if you are even in private equity as a space. So I think we're all working with something which is new. Yes, some of these have been with us for over a decade, but the constant reelaboration and application of what have been existing to new parts of the economy is what makes it intriguing and at the same time challenging and very rewarding for those investors that are prepared to to have a certain risk appetite profile and a certain risk tolerance profile. It's not for everyone. It's not for the faint of heart, as I always say. And so definitely the government's stepping in. It's a reshaping of the stage, because obviously the message I think it's very clear. It's really China is ready, good to go with its own currency. The United States are preparing it. The European Union is preparing it. Many other large economies are preparing it, and of course this is the forward path. I, as an investor and a venture capitalist, want to make sure that I'm aligned and my investee companies are aligned with what's coming, because it's pointless to keep doing things like we did them even a couple of years ago. I forget about 10 or 20 years ago. This is a completely constant reshaping. This is like the the ebb and tide of the maritime tide, of the tidal wave, of the sea. It's just this constant flow, ebb and flow of the ocean, and it requires, to a degree, a lot of gut instinct and navigation by sight, because it's instrumental. It doesn't really serve you well. You can't do 15 or 10-year plans anymore. The Japanese were masters at that, but now we got to navigate it at 2 to 3 years, 1 to 2 years, or even by the quarter, and depending on what we're running, if it's a listed entity or a privately held entity, and depending on the number of stakeholders that we have. So, I think it's all very exciting, but it requires more and more a compounded mind power from a human standpoint of view, because the number of competencies that are necessary laterally, horizontally, and vertically are exceeding, I would say, the average of even a few years ago in any given company. So, it calls for cooperation, and in fact, we're seeing that the economy is evolving towards an economy of sharing versus an economy of owning, and those who are prepared to do that, can thrive, and the other ones, have to be prepared for a very bumpy ride.
You're right. As working in this space, it's something you have to plan for on a quarter, not a yearly basis. Because of those regulation changes that are still being put in place. There's still new technology that's enforcing new policies and new regulations to come. We're talking again about emerging and transformative markets as blockchain is being applied. We had one of the biggest exchanges for all of Brazil recently acquired. We have Latin America, the entire area of region, of LATAM, and even more specific, Mexico, seeing more projects, more companies, more use of both blockchain and decentralized finance, along with some CeFi, so centralized finance, traditional as well. But there's huge opportunities within the region for peer-to-peer payments, P2P, or just new applications in general. And Gary, I want to come to you around AI and quantum. Oh, sorry, Giampaolo, did you have a comment? Okay, sorry. Gary, I want to come to you around AI and quantum and how that may impact blockchain for good or for bad in these, again, emerging and transformative markets around the world. Looking at somewhere like Latin America, looking at somewhere like South America, and how does artificial intelligence help, and or how does quantum maybe prevent really the blockchain technology progressing in these regions or slowing things down?
Yeah, I mean, so you remember I'm a country boy from Pennsylvania, so we just keep it simple. So, the key ingredient for the development and enhancement of artificial intelligence is AI algorithms. And at the same time, we need data, right? So data is the key to be able to develop them. At the same time, blockchain secures the data. So we can audit it. We can keep it accountable. So what we're doing on the AI side is we're able to draw conclusions from the data to be able to monetize that data. So when you combine these incredible, powerful technologies together, it allows us to be able to do things in an accountable way, in an encrypted, secure way. But as you said, Kyle, the wild card out there, and I want to say this before I drill down, is that what's happening right now, the reason this is coming at us so fast is because these technologies are starting to become mainstream. And whenever I've been through these markets, whether it's e-commerce back in the 90s and 2000s, the internet, World Wide Web back in the 90s, it's, you have this adoption curves where you've got this, you're crossing the chasm mentality where people don't understand what's happening. And then finally, the mainstream groups start to buy in and people start to flood to the technologies. And by the way, it doesn't always work when the flooding comes in. Sometimes the early adopters move in the wrong direction and it doesn't get adopted. So people lose. But right now, that's what's happening. So where, AI can be incredibly revolutionary, and with precautions, right? With precautions, but blockchain can assist it. The wild card out there is quantum computing, because when quantum computers come in, and I've said this many times, a quantum computer can be 100 million times faster, and even faster than that. This is an average quantum than a supercomputer. But that means you can process what would take 10,000 years in 200 seconds on a quantum computer. So we have the chance that most of the systems that we have in place today can be cracked, right? Because there's so much enormous computing power. And then you look at the Chinese that have systems reportedly that, 10 to 100 times faster than that. So what we have is we had better start looking at secure, decentralized cybersecurity systems that can help us protect this data, because these quantum computers are already starting, think about the geopolitical consequences of a quantum computer. So all the money in the world, we're putting it in cryptocurrency, or not all, but much of the money in the world is now moving over to a digital state. Now you got the bad characters out there that can access it. So what we have to do is we got to look at cybersecurity a lot more closely across multiple vertical markets and address these challenges that are coming at us. And it's coming quickly. You can see probes happening in grids. You can see probe happening in central banks. I mean, it's happened. The quantum computers exist. This isn't a fairy tale. They exist today, and they're being used.
You're right. And that's, again, it's exciting and also a little terrifying, because we don't know how this is all going to play out, as we haven't seen it really directly hit blockchain yet. But with that being said, I mean, I want to come to each of you around the predictions and closing thoughts as to what you have, where this industry is going to go. I would like to say for the rest of the year, but I'm going to change it up. Where do you see this industry taking shape over really the rest of Q1? We've got 2 weeks left, and we've seen more activity happen in the last 60, almost 70 days than we did in almost the end of last year, 2020. It has been a wild quarter one here for 2021 for the industry. So would love to hear each of your any closing thoughts, but your big prediction for the rest of the quarter. And then, of course, where can everyone find you? Harsh, let's start it off with you. Any closing thoughts? Bold prediction for the quarter, and then where can everyone find you?
Absolutely. So, I actually don't like to make predictions because I hate to be wrong, right? So I won't get into the the prediction part of it. But at the same time, you're quite right in the terms of the action that the entire blockchain ecosystem has seen, right? It's been absolutely phenomenal. I see a lot of improvement over here, especially in the developing side of the world, right? In terms of the applications, in terms of the fintech space, agriculture space, supply chain space, the areas which I've already mentioned. Apart from that, one area which is not truly been explored in the past traditionally, if you look at it, I would say even in the legal space, right? Right
Mhm.
now, what happens is the legal space tends to be very dogmatic and very old school. You need to file tons of legal forms to get a single thing done, right? It's ridiculous how annoying all those forms tend to be, right? So if you can kind of use blockchain to get those legal things sorted out, and even those small things like notaries, affidavits, minor government applications, all that stuff. You just notarize them and become so easy. You actually would not believe. Just yesterday, I got a fine from the government of Italy for one of the traffic violation I made there about a year back. It took them 14 months to send it to me to my place right now. 14 months to send it by post. They could have simply digitally sent it to me within 2 months, and I could have wrapped it up over there itself. And now they are blaming me for the delay. They're actually fining me double the amount for the delay in the entire thing. Imagine that, right? So the technologically, the conventional government system, the way they've been doing it's absolutely ridiculous and definitely needs to be upgraded, upgraded, right? So that is where I see blockchain coming in, and the small things like notaries, affidavits, those legal compliances, legal agreements, the small things, those things, if those things are kind of taken care of, it'll definitely go a long way. So that is an essence, where I see this could be going forward. And if anyone wants to, reach out to me, they can reach out to me on Facebook and on LinkedIn at Harshetia. Would be happy to connect, and really love these amazing sessions with all my friends over here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Harsh. Slow down. Don't be such a hurry to get places. But all jokes aside, pleasure to have you as always. Tolga, closing thoughts, prediction for the quarter, and then of course, where can everyone find you and Loop as well?
Thank you, Kyle. Closing thoughts. As I mentioned, the blockchain and the cryptocurrency adoption is increasing, and it's like a snowball effect. Bitcoin is rising. I'm not sure if you have some right now, but I have some. So it's very interesting times where it's like almost post-pandemic. It's still going on, but we're definitely living less with its negative effects, which is really good news. And this is bringing a huge revolution, and the revolution is including all these digital elements that we are using every day. They're all coming together. The electric vehicles, our smartphones, blockchain, cryptocurrencies. These are all the same. They are the links of the same chain. So I think this is gonna just continue to evolve and grow. So my recommendation for people: get an EV, be a part of the revolution, enjoy driving, a very sophisticated smart car that really can change your perception of things. I mean, this is my first recommendation. The second one is definitely pay attention to what's happening in cryptocurrencies, because there's so much value in not all of them, but there's so much value in the major tokens out there. Ethereum has I think an incredible value. I mean, there's so much value in these emerging markets that it's kind of hard to follow. But my recommendation is just at least in a high level, follow what's happening with the electric vehicles, EV charging, cryptocurrencies, the digital assets. These are all coming together really nicely, and I think in the next few years, these crypto payments are gonna dominate the market. PayPal is introducing it. Coinbase is going public. These are all not happening out of a coincidence. So major developments are happening. It's very exciting, and I hope I'm gonna attend to another event. We're gonna talk more about EVs and EV charging and the details of how these industries are changing our lives. Thank you so much for having me. You can find me at LinkedIn, Tolga Onuk. My website is tolgaonuk.com, and we launched our website. Loop, evloop.io. Please visit our website. I believe that it's a really cool website. We are definitely one of the industry leading companies out there. We got featured on Fast Company yesterday as top 10 most innovative joint ventures of 2021, alongside with companies like Microsoft, General Motors, and NASCAR. This is a huge achievement for us. As I told you, you're going to hear more about Loop, because we are definitely changing the way of the energy distribution, and this is a major revolution. Follow us, EV Loop. Thank you so much, Kyle.
Thank you so much, Tolga. Gary, quick closing thoughts, prediction, and where can everyone find you?
Yeah,
and then Giampaolo.
The two pieces that my friend Tolga left out are AI and quantum. So with the massive amount of data that's all around us, we need to be able to figure it out. There's going to be two classes of people: the people that understand the data and have intelligent assistance to act upon it, and the people that don't. And we have to be aware of that. That's part of this digital transformation that's happening. We also need to look at technologies like quantum computers, because they're going to entirely change our lives. We're going to live a lot longer because we're going to be able to do incredible things with drug discovery, to be able to look at molecules very, very quickly in enormous data sets. So pay attention to that. You can reach me, Gary Fowler, on LinkedIn. You can reach me on Facebook, or send me an email, gary@gstvs.com. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you, Gary. Giampaolo, close us up.
Yes, for investors and entrepreneurs alike, everybody is riding in their own vehicle. You need to have the headlights and the taillights on. The headlights to perform a more thorough reconnaissance, and the taillights to increase your surveillance, your security, because you have to investigate better any options you have for investments or joint venture or commercial opportunities if you're an investor or an entrepreneur. And at the same time, you have to protect your data, you have to protect your assets, and so you have to increase the security. And I'm Giampaolo Parigi. You can reach me on LinkedIn, on Twitter, via email at giampaoloparigi1@gmail.com. Thank you very much, LATOKEN, Kyle, Maria, and every one of you for being here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Giampaolo, Tolga, Harsh, Gary as well, for sharing your thoughts and insights around what's happening in blockchain and emerging and transformative markets as well. A lot more to talk about on this subject and many others that we spoke about today, but we're going to hold those to future episodes of VCTV. To you, our audience, thank you so much for tuning in, and hello to all of you around the world. I saw the comments coming in, and all of those questions that you had, make sure you follow up with us afterwards, all on social media. Make sure you add context and what you would like to continue the conversation about, including your questions as well. And also, if you'd like to be on a show like today, do reach out to the team and or myself. We'll find that right spot for you. Speaking of team, a big thank you to the LATOKEN team and to Maria for making VCTV possible every single day. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. We're going to take a short little break, and we're going to be back to talk a little bit more about blockchain around commerce and e-commerce, including some of the big partnerships from MasterCard, Visa, Discover, and many others on a global scale, and what that is doing to shape the future of commerce and e-commerce here in just a moment. Stay tuned. Everyone have a wonderful day. Bye.